Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the flarkin Guardians of the Galaxy.
You got the hands almost free! A godly hand below us!
Alright guys, let's just jump right into it. I just got done playing Guardians of the Galaxy and it was freaking awesome. It blew me away. My expectations were super low. If you're going in thinking anything that it's going to be anything like the other Square Enix game, the Avengers, you will be pleasantly surprised. It is nothing like that. I mean, even like the little tiny story mode that they had in Avengers is just nothing compared to the story of this game. This game's story was so good. The story was fire. I just freaking loved it. A lot of the characters were awesome. Like they gave Drax like a whole full-fledged like backstory, and I really enjoyed his backstory. Mantis in the game is even better than she is in the movie. At least I enjoyed her character way more than the actual like Guardians of the Galaxy movie. She's awesome in this. But yeah, guys, start to finish, this game's story was super good. It works really well together. I thought I was going to be put off because it's not like the actual actors' faces and whatnot. And it is a little weird at first, just like in Avengers, but the story gets so good. All the voice acting is really good. I love like the team banter, like when they're just talking and
Ha! Congratulations, Peter Quill. You will make a terrible father. Unless the child is dead, in which case it does not matter.
Yelling at each other. It's just freaking hilarious. It's funny. So many cool moments happen story-wise. And there is just so many like laugh out loud moments where like there's so many times where I just was like laughing and I was like, what the heck, this is freaking hilarious. Drax is funny. Like all the characters just work really well together. The only thing that I would consider like a not so good about the story is that I didn't quite like Gamora's character as much. I definitely do prefer her character more in the actual Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But her character was okay here. She just wasn't as cold-hearted or, you know, as reserved into herself as she was in the movies. And I think they just did it a little bit better in the actual movies. Now, the combat was really fun, although I do have to put this out there, that the combat was a little rough at the beginning. Just because you don't have all your abilities and your team members don't have all of their abilities yet either, and so it is a little bit clanky and a little bit weird. Not too bad, but once you get, you know, at least more than halfway through the game, I would say probably like the last 2/3, at least for combat-wise, are all super fun. Getting everyone's special moves and getting your different elemental abilities for your gun are all super fun, and it made combat really interesting, and I always was trying to shake it up and do different types of moves and finishers, and the combat overall was a lot of fun. Next up on the list that I put is that the world itself was really cool to look at. Like, they did a really good job at designing it. There's a lot of times where I just kind of stopped and was like looking around, especially like at the beginning when you're like in the restriction zone, or when you're on like the ice planet looking for Fing Fang Foom. Like, just all the different like environments that they made were really cool. Although as cool as they looked, they do have a downside, is that they are super linear. There's not really any room for exploration. They do have a little bit of like a branching path, and it's usually to find like chests that usually contain, actually they always contain outfits, different materials for upgrading your abilities, things like that. But they're all pretty obvious. I got all of them in my playthrough, but I just wish that there was a little bit more freedom to kind of explore and kind of check out these beautiful worlds that they created. There just wasn't enough of that. They're all pretty linear. But other than that, like, they're just incredible to look at. Super cool atmosphere. You could like, there's parts where you see like the aliens kind of flying by, and it was overall really cool. I said this kind of earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. I freaking love the team banter. Just the way that the team interacts with one another. They're yelling and fighting and having a good old time. They're partying, and it's just like the whole dynamic of the Guardians of the Galaxy really work in this game. And that was something that I was a little bit afraid of initially going into it, that, you know, Marvel has such a high expectation, and I was going in thinking that it was going to be similar to the movies, which it is very similar as far as like the team dynamic goes. And then another thing I was worried about was how close was it going to be like Avengers? Was it going to, you know, the combat, or I didn't really look up anything pre buying this game, It was a Marvel game. I knew I was going to pay for it. I knew I was going to play it. It just really works here, the way that they all work together and kind of go through their stories, their backstories. Like I said, they give Drax a full-fledged backstory and just give a lot more depth to the character Drax that the movies don't really do.
If you do not mind, Peter Quill, I would like to be left alone now.
Oh, yeah, sure, man.
I wrote this down, although I've heard some people say they didn't quite like this mechanic, but I actually really liked the huddle mechanic, especially like when enemies are all coming at you and it's getting really tight. Just having that whole huddle get together, and it's got the intense music. Although the caveat is that they give you two different like dialogue options, and either you boost you and your whole team, or you just boost you because you chose the wrong dialogue option. But overall, I thought the huddles were really fun. The only thing that I didn't quite like about the huddle mechanic slash system that they put in is kind of the music. Sometimes, like when you first did the huddle, it's playing like the super intense music and you're getting pumped, and then right after the huddle play is over and Star-Lord presses play on his Walkman, it's like a non-epic song, and I was like, oh, kind of like a buzzkill. You're like, oh, I'm ready to go, and then it just kind of is like, oh. But that was like my only thing that I didn't really like about the huddle system, and I know some people didn't like it because they said it interrupted gameplay or whatever. I actually really liked it. I can't even believe I have to even mention this on the pros list, but all the skins are free. All of the skins are in the game. No microtransactions, no, downloading digital content or whatever. Basically, all the BS that they did in Avengers is non-existent in this game, and it's so awesome. I hate that I even have to say that, because games, it's such a money grab to like tie skins behind paywalls or whatever, but everything is all in this, and they all got like 9 different skins. Star-Lord's got like 15, something like that, and so there's plenty of variety, and it's all in the game, and it's awesome. They did great. Now kind of going into some of the things that I didn't quite like. All the times that you're in the ship, or you have to steer the ship or kind of fight within the ship, I just didn't really like it. It didn't feel smooth. It didn't feel fun. And that's kind of like the issue I have with a lot of games where you're primarily on foot and then you go to like a spaceship. It always seems like that the spaceship part or the ship part or airplane part, whatever you want to call it, just isn't as fun as it looks. An example that right off the top of my head was Kingdom Hearts 3. I actually really liked Kingdom Hearts 3, minus the part where you had to get in like what was it called, like the gummy ship or whatever. It just wasn't fun to control. I mean, I figured it out after messing with it a little bit, and even once I got it down, I was like, it just wasn't as fun. It was just more of like, can we just hurry and skip this part so that I can get to the next part where I'm actually in the ship running around. Next thing I wrote here was that there are lots of glitches, but nothing that was game-breaking in a way where I was like, okay, I can't play this anymore, or I'd have to restart. They were all just like graphical glitches, maybe textures not quite popping in right as you go to a new area, or, they're all like little. There's nothing, like I said, that was game breaking. Kind of mentioned a little bit of this a little bit ago, but the combat was a little rough at the beginning, and I attest that to not having all of your companion abilities, not having all your elemental abilities for your gun. But once you get all of those together, combat is actually really fun. And I actually enjoyed it a lot, kind of doing all the team abilities. And that's kind of like where the combat really shines here, is where you're fighting. Because the normal just attacks is you're just shooting your gun. And then once your timer fills up or your meter fills up, you can do one of your companion abilities. And each one of your 4 companions has 4 different abilities that they can unlock. They can even unlock like a super move where they do a ton of damage. For instance, Rocket does this one where he like pulls out like a ton of different guns and just shoots them all at once. Like, it's crazy. Gamora kind of goes like Fruit Ninja type thing and is just sawing people up like super fast. So like, they're all really fun. And yeah, like I said, just the combat is a little bit rough at the beginning, but thankfully that doesn't last too long. It's like the first couple chapters. I believe there are 16 in total, and for like 80% of the game, the combat is great. It kind of builds along, like you get these abilities in stages and whatnot, and it's fun. I know I kind of said this already, but it has been my favorite part of the game so far. The story for this game was just so fun. It was all over the place. It was crazy. I won't get into any spoilers, but if you're thinking about sitting this game out because you weren't sure, because you played the last Square Enix Marvel game, Avengers, and you're like, please do not sleep on it. This game was so much better than that. So much better story-wise, combat-wise. Like, it just really got me hooked. And the story was just so good. A very well-written, story-driven game. And if you guys haven't gotten it yet, I highly, highly recommend getting it. Now, my overall rating for this game is, like I said, let me just premise that I went into this game with very, very low expectations. And not only was I pleasantly surprised about how good this game was, but I was freaking blown away. I literally went in and I was like, okay, if it's a little bit better than Avengers, we'll give it a pass, you know, I'll try it out because it's a Marvel game. No, this game was way better than that. I'm just blown away. That's the best thing I could say. Overall, guys, my rating for this game is an 8.5 out of 10. I freaking loved it. Such a good game. Combat was fun. Story was great. You know, I forgot even to mention the music. The music was so good in this. Like, you imagine the Guardians of the Galaxy movies where it just has that really cool 80s, 90s, really popular music. This has literally all of that in there. And a plus, it does have a lot of accessibility options, so that if you were like streaming this, you could turn off like the copyright music, or I don't know. There's a lot of accessibility options in this, and that was also really cool. But yeah, guys, that was my review of Guardians of the Galaxy. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of it. I freaking loved it. I recommend this game to anybody who hasn't played it yet. And that's going to be it for the video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.